Well, good afternoon and welcome back to Allergic to Stupidity. And the reason for the third attempt is because the first two, I really like the theme and I'm going to get into that theme, but it wasn't coming together and I wanted to come together for you. This is Sunday. It is May the 4th. So May the 4th be with you. May the 4th be with you. Today's political Sunday has to do with the election's now over. How can we go forward? And first thing we need to do is accept the fact that we're not in this alone, guys. The whole world is in a really rotten situation. We know that. Trump is doing his thing, and he may never, ever put 100% on all these tariffs he was threatening with, but it's keeping it in chaos, which is keeping the stock market upside down. And irrelevant to the stock market, it's keeping us all stressed because we don't know what's happening next. I, as self-employed, are all my clients going to keep coming back? Are they going to have to start cutting back on the number of hours that they have? Because some of my clients are definitely well off, and others are scraping together their money so their little Johnny can get a little extra help. So the first article I saw, which I'm not going to show you, is a gentleman by the name of Rex Murphy out of the UK, and his list of things that he was saying is that young people, especially, but it goes for everybody, with the way the political setup is in the UK with Stammer, is the chance of housing. People are depressed. What's going to happen? We don't have a chance of ever owning a house. Even renting is ridiculous. And that applies to us here. There is, he rang Doc 3. Oh, decent job. Decent paying job. So you're not going to pull down 3 or 4. And I can jive with that. I've got a daughter who's got a degree in science and she's not making $100,000. I've got another one who has given up on retail because it doesn't pay enough. So she's trying to start her own business. And she concedes it's going to be questionable because it's in LARPing. So that's a very niche kind of business. So, and economic times are not great. So, but the chance of a decent job, a job that makes use of your skill set and your interests. So I grew up going, get a job you want to be doing for 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life. You better try and find a job you enjoy doing. One of mine has that. The one starting their own business has that. My 2 boys have a job because it's a job and it pays the bills. That's it. They don't hate them. Even my almost 21-year-old has gone, I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. And that's what we're facing, is that's where the point is. So we're all depressed and want to stick our heads in the sand and ignore it and hopefully pretend that it doesn't apply to me. Okay? Oh, my little computer's doing things. So the first thing I want to show today, I have no idea why that just did that. Okay. It's a little short to start off with, and then we are going to go on to the second video. So we're sitting here in Canada, and we have a new government, and this gentleman has a quick little short on how can we rebuild the Canadian economy.
It's going to have a hell of a job starting day one to rebuild the Canadian economy.
Build, baby.
Build major new infrastructure.
Reduce the pressure on housing price.
Build homes that you can actually afford.
The economy needs help. GDP is weak. The job market has slowed. Tariffs and trade wars and all the uncertainty they bring are already weighing on the Canadian economy. So what needs to be done by whoever wins to get the Canadian economy moving again? Here's what business leaders have been saying. Number one, speed up the approvals process for resource projects in this country.
Canada has a time-bound opportunity to strengthen our sovereignty, to build our economy, and to re-establish our global position by delivering energy security and enabling emissions reductions for our allies through exporting Canadian liquefied natural gas to replace higher emitting coal.
The CEOs of some of the biggest energy companies in the country issued an open letter charting a path to make that happen. They also want the government to eliminate the federal cap on emissions. Number two, remove long-standing interprovincial trade barriers.
It has never been more clear that there is unity around the table relating to the need to reduce and eliminate interprovincial barriers to trade.
Removing those interprovincial trade barriers, everything from labeling and shipping to licensing and certification, could boost GDP per capita by 3.8% nationally. And number three, invest in artificial intelligence.
I'm here to tell you that I honestly believe that the AI revolution is underhyped.
That's the former CEO of Google talking about the enormous potential of artificial intelligence. But he warns there are real obstacles as well.
Data centers will require an additional 29 gigawatts of power by 2027 and 67 more gigawatts by 2030. Gives you a sense of the scale that we're talking. These things are industrial at a scale I have never seen in my life.
Where does he see the solution to those energy demands? Canada, specifically Quebec and all its hydroelectricity. And these are just a handful of ideas. Canada's next prime minister is going to have to move quickly. In a lot of ways, winning the election, that's the easy part. Actually doing the work and seeing through these priorities, that's difficult at the best of times. And with a weak economy and the potential devastation of a trade war looming, these are decidedly not the best of times. Whoever wins this election is going to have a hell of
The joys of shorts, they just keep repeating themselves. So if you listen to those three things, the fourth one is push unity. Like get all the premiers back to the table on the Constitution and what provinces are responsible for and what provinces aren't. Times change. So our Constitution should be a living document, something that is going to grow and change as we age. It is not a stationary thing, and it shouldn't be seen as that way. And by saying we can open up the Constitution, not just because one province says it has to be done, but making it every 10 years that the premiers get together with the prime minister and a committee, etc., like get it structured and say, okay, how is the Constitution serving your province and your constituents in the last 10 years? Is there some way we can tweak it? Now, understand, because we are connected together, that means if it applies to Quebec, it has to apply to Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, blah, 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 and the territories. So that would be one option, but that's the fourth one he didn't include. But the middle one he did include, by the way, as a teacher sitting here, AI scares me, is the tariffs, the interprovincial tariffs, which gets to be this next one. And I'm going to share this guy. Okay. Here they are. Booze, language laws, and maple syrup. Here are how interprovincial barriers impact our daily lives. Some of them I didn't know about as I was reading this, okay? So I'm going to put this link into the description like I usually do, so you can go to it and read the whole thing more carefully. So his is comparison. Just imagine that the 13 provinces and territories are all small countries, and they have their own trade barriers. So booze barriers. Some of this, I just sat there and shook my head when I read this the first time. Most Canadian wineries, breweries, and distilleries cannot sell or ship directly to consumers in other parts of the country. Excuse me, what? That was literally the first time I found out I couldn't buy wine from Okanagan Valley because I'm in Ontario and that's in BC. I just went, you gotta be kidding me. So this is not Ottawa. This is not federal government. This is the provinces going, oh, no, 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 no. This is why Ottawa beer makers can't sell breweries across the river to Gatineau, Quebec. Like literally, it's a 30-second drive from Ottawa to Gatineau. Why you can't buy Quebec-made whiskey in Nova Scotia, and why until recently BC wineries couldn't sell their wine directly to Alberta. People. Okay, here's a lovely chart. The blue one is international imports. Interprovincial imports. Growth in interprovincial imports has not kept up with international imports. This is ridiculous. Now, that only went to 2021 in thingies. It doesn't have the last 4 years. Okay, I just got to make sure something hasn't done this thing. Okay. Now, here's the next one, and this one is completely on Quebec's shoulders. Now, this was one of those things that Brian Mulroney, bless his soul, was trying to give it. It was mutually accord, and it fell through. And it was to protect the Quebec language because it is unique. It is not Parisian French. It is a French that is uniquely Quebec. Okay, so you can understand why Quebecers get uncomfortable when a lot of immigrants are coming in, and the Canadian law says you come into Quebec or you come into Canada, you have to either learn English or learn French. If you're going to learn a second language, it's one of those two, right? Well, mine is if you're choosing to live in Quebec, let's get smart, learn French. Okay, Quebec's language laws are one example of a resulting trade barrier, and that other province holds more exemptions. If you are an English business and you want to operate inside the province of Quebec, there's a litany of laws, rules, and regulations about signage, which language comes first, proportion of French to English, the needs of the employees and employers in communicating. Okay, there are different laws for Quebec-made products sold into other provincial markets. Quebec tightened its language laws in 2021, which provincial officials said was necessary to protect their French language. Like I said, their French language is not Parisian by any stretch. But here's one of them that came up either last 2024, some of it struck me, or 2023, in the last couple of years, that all corporations' signs had to be changed so they were in French. And that included Canadian Tire. Okay, I can see saying any new signs going up. So you're opening a new Canadian Tire, then you make it the sign in French. But you're asking, and it just struck me because it's Canadian Tire by itself is an icon. Everybody knows what it is. You don't have to be able to speak English, French, or anything to know that that's Canadian Tire, and it's what it is, right? It's tires and household and sporting goods and everything else. Okay. Though I get where the Quebec government's coming from in that. Like I said, their French is very unique for Quebec. But it's that, can we come up with different things? As far as selling your stuff inside Quebec, it only makes, like if you're from Alberta or Saskatchewan and you want to sell your products in Quebec, it only makes logical sense that you put stickers on there in English and French so that the potential customer, if they don't speak English, they're going to know it, be able to read the language. Okay. Chicken sold, farm, food, and farming quirks. Ever notice that chicken is sold in BC is more expensive than in any other province? That's because the price is set by a provincial chicken board. Do the fruits and veggies are packed and labeled differently in Quebec compared to Manitoba? Those are just a few ways. So I'm not expecting this to be easy and quick. Okay. That red tape is used to exist in Lloydminster, a city that straddles the border between Alberta and Saskatchewan. And until recently, you couldn't sell a deli sandwich made in the Alberta side of to the grocery co-op on the city side of Saskatchewan without a separate license. This is stupid. Go to your MP. Tell them to fix it. In your MPP. Okay? There we go. Job hopping. This is an irritant with me. Okay? Think of moving across the country for your career? Well, hold horses. And I can vouch for this 150%. I have my Ontario teaching certificate. I have 2 degrees behind my name. I have multiple additional qualifications. But if I want to go teach in any other province, I literally have to send a copy of all of that to their Ministry of Education, and they will compare it and line it up. That would be okay if I didn't have to pay like $300 to do it. Because first of all, I have to send a copy, go to my university that I got my Bachelor of Education and my OTC from, have them send a copy to them, to the new ministry. And then I have to do all my additional qualifications, which I didn't do them all at the same university. So that's 5 or 6. And each one of those cost me $50. Well, that's no guarantee I've got a teaching job. Literally talked to somebody from the Ministry of Education it was New Brunswick. And I said, why can you not simply go to the College Teachers in Ontario? It's a website, it's been verified, go down, punch in my name, and it's all there. And she said, that would make common sense. So if they get rid of this and say, as long as you can prove you've got an Ontario teaching certificate, bam, you can teach in those other provinces. That would make more sense, because we have a shortage of supply teachers in Ontario, but we have a shortage of classroom teachers in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. I have no problems moving to New Brunswick or Nova Scotia, except for I just don't feel like going through the headache of having to spend $200 and $300 on the hope perchance maybe I'll get a job. Same thing goes for nurses. Same thing goes for doctors. Depending on the particular profession, you may have more or less mobility. Example, a nurse trained in Ontario, for example, might need to do an additional coursework to practice in Manitoba. A psychologist certified in Alberta might need more training to work in Nova Scotia, and lawyers from outside of Quebec who want to practice in the province face barriers because of its own civil code, and the rest of Canada follows common law. Okay, I get there might be some tweaks. So just keeping it for me, because this is the field I know, that I may have to double check how their curriculum's laid out for grade 9 math. Okay. Or if trying to go into Quebec to teach, I could only apply to English boards of education. So those boards that only teach English, and then French is the second language. Okay. There has been some movement on the front. British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba signed their own mini agreement in 2010, removing most barriers to trade between those 4 Western provinces, including the ones that hindered labor mobility. That's fantastic. How domestic trade stacks up against international trade. So let's just look at Ontario, because that's where I'm talking from. Interprovincial, 159 billion. International, 288. All of them, the red, except for Manitoba, the red, the interprovincial, is less than the black, which is international. Well, Nova Scotia is basically even, Stephen. Nunavut, Northwest Territories, yeah. So this is, so there's, and then the rest of this is back up. Okay. There we go, folks. I will put these links in for you after in the description like usual so that you can see it. Okay. So there we go. We've had an election. the first thing I'm watching for, because I think economically that's what's going to help Canada the most. It'll also encourage unity as the barriers are dropped and we can start seeing everybody together. Are there always going to be disagreements between provinces? Yes, there's going to be 100%, because we're one big family and that's what happens in families. And someday I'm going to figure, I got ants. So, but it's a start. And it's the first thing we can check on Carney, watch on Carney. Now, remember what I said, is that he's hoping to get rid of interprovincial barriers by that day, by Canada Day, July 1st. And we can watch. As long as there's a progress, as long as there is a push towards getting it done, I'm happy, right? And some things don't happen overnight. And it will help everybody feel a little more like we're one big party. Now, I know that certain regions of the country will say, we have a unique culture. I have a reality check for all of you. Every single region of this country has a unique culture, right? Even in British Columbia, there is a very unique culture on the island. In the mountains, a very unique. Alberta has their own. Saskatchewan/Manitoba. Northwestern Ontario, it has a completely different culture than we have down here in Southern Ontario. Quebec has its own. Like, literally, people, not one area is uniquely Canadian. We are Canadian because we're all unique. So we need to stop yelling and screaming and throwing tantrums because it's not happening the way we think it should. Did I always get along with my aunt? No, because she always kept pulling and fixing and correcting my clothes because they didn't lie straight, because she didn't think it lies. I just learned to ignore her on those. She's a lovely lady, by the way. Bless her soul. So, yeah, is one area of the country going to get along better with another area? Yeah, because they got things in common. That's to be expected. That's okay. Don't forget the Great White North, like the far reaches of the North. People in northern Quebec have more in common with Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and Yukon than they wouldn't have with southern Quebec. So we need to stop being mad at each other, and we all need to start working together. Anyways, there's 2 clips on the first thing we need to start working on, or our politicians need to start working on, is getting rid of those interprovincial tariffs and bring us all together as trading partners as one country. I hope everybody's had a good day. Take care, and we'll see you next time.